there was that Capitol attack. There was that attack on the Capitol, and it basically an attempted coup d'etat carried out by rabid Trumpists to try to force Donald Trump on the United States against, like, the general will of the populace. And a lot of people were alarmed by a lot of people were really alarmed by, well, a lot of, like, naive people who didn't already really know this about cops were alarmed when there were, like, multiple reports of cops, you know, like, taking selfies with people that were attacking the Capitol. And, you know, there's that video of the cops literally just, like, opening the gates and letting these people storm the fucking Capitol and shit. There's literally the video of cops just, like, letting these people storm the Capitol. But now, in all this has struck up the conversation that has been going on in left circles for fucking ages. And also that has been going on in left circles for fucking ages, but doesn't really get enough attention in mainstream society. Wait, are cops, like, helping the fucking Nazis? And yeah, that's bringing up the question, like, after the Capitol attack, does police MAGA sentiment cross the fucking line? I personally think it does, but let's listen to this piece real quick.
And I'm Elsa Chang. We know a number of off-duty police took part in the Trump rally on January 6th, which turned into a siege on the U.S. Capitol. A Houston officer who allegedly entered the Capitol now faces federal charges. He has resigned. And other police departments are investigating whether any of their officers broke the law in Washington, D.C. But they're also deciding if the events at the Capitol change where to draw the line for officers when it comes to politics and free speech. NPR's Martin Costi reports.
As far as we know, the biggest contingent of off-duty cops at that rally came from Seattle. At least 5 officers. They're being investigated, and there's no public evidence yet that they broke the law. Still, alarm bells are going off for some people in the city.
What more can we do to help understand how deep...
Damn, yeah, and that there's often this like fucking, like, stereotype of Seattle being like, oh, liberal hipster land, or, like, or leftist land. I mean, like, a couple of streamers that I watch, there's a couple of streamers that I watch that straight up say that they're, like, based out of Seattle. It's a very leftist area. But yeah, what a surprise that the cops who were in Seattle, a bunch of them were right-wing nut jobs, and they showed up to this fucking, well, not a bunch, but a few of them showed up to this fucking thing.
It really is here.
Douglas Wagoner is a member of the Community Police Commission, a citizen advisory group which discussed the matter in a Zoom meeting.
Because I can't think of anything that's more problematic for trust between SPD and the community, especially at this already tenuous moment, than to find out that there are potential officers potentially involved in this attempted coup.
Another member of the group, a black officer named Mark Mullins, talked about colleagues who've worn
that is a
MAGA hats
sketchy
to the
thing
precinct.
to find out.
To me, that's like wearing a Confederate flag or bringing a Confederate flag to work.
Underneath this discussion, there's a deeper question. Is it still acceptable for cops to be pro-Trump? It's not a call that Andrew Meyerberg wants
It fucking shouldn't be, but let's let them finish.
to make. He runs Seattle's Office of Police Accountability, which is investigating the 5 officers. His focus is on whether they broke the law in Washington, not the beliefs that took them there.
I think people are entitled to their political views, and I don't think it is my job to be policing those political views unless there is some component of it that clearly violates SPD policy.
At the same time, Meyerberg says it's no secret that police are often more conservative than the community.
It certainly creates friction when law enforcement is policing a city that's as progressive as Seattle or Washington, D.C. or Portland. There is this natural friction there.
Context often plays a role in whether a cop's political views are...
I'm also very curious as to how many of them live in the city that they're patrolling. How many of them actually live, like, in the city of Seattle? How many of them actually live in Portland? As opposed to living in fucking nearby suburbs that are way more affluent.
acceptable. Georgetown law professor...
Because, like, I remember like reading over one thing on stream a little while ago. Rochester police in Rochester, New York, some like pathetically small part of the force. The force is like, that's a force that has a serious historic problem with like race, with like a history of racism and of all sorts of racism and shit. Rochester is a notoriously segregated area. Rochester itself has an enormous black population, but they're very concentrated in very specific areas of the city. And the police have a history of being extremely fucking racist. The Rochester Police Department is also overwhelmingly white dudes that live in the fucking suburbs and don't actually live in Rochester.
Dr. Christy Lopez is an expert in this area. She says courts apply a balancing test. A police officer's free speech rights on one side, and on the other, there's a police department's interest in protecting its reputation and legitimacy.
What does it tell us, for example, if an officer wants to wear a MAGA hat to a baseball game? Is that balancing test different on January 5th than it is on January 7th?
Yes.
Maybe that's different after we have come to believe.
It is different. It is different after the maggots attempted a fucking coup d'etat.
Trump actually instigated an attack on the Capitol.
Lopez isn't saying that the balance has changed in that way, just that it could.
Remember, there's a significantly less chance that this conversation would be happening at all. That this piece would have aired on an NPR station if that coup d'etat attempt never fucking happened in the first place. But it did.
With that in mind, some police officers are now scrubbing their social media just in case. Houston Police Officers Union President Doug Griffith says some cops there became concerned when the chief recently vowed to search for political extremists in the ranks.
We received several calls from members asking, how's he going to do this? What does this mean? Does this mean if I like the Trump tweet that I'm going to be disciplined?
Griffith assured the officers that that would not happen, though he also gives them this advice.
If you can't post on your church bulletin board what you're going to put on Facebook or Twitter, then you probably shouldn't put it out there.
Griffith doesn't think the many Trump supporters in law enforcement, people like himself, now have to worry about being penalized for that support. But when it comes to drawing lines, he has one of his own. He says all officers, regardless of political sympathies, need to respect the nation's electoral process and the fact that Joe Biden is now the president. Martin Costi, NPR News.
So, I mean, it is, like, generally accepted by a lot of people. Let me look up the data real quick to see. Yeah, here's a piece from Washington Post all the way back before the fucking election in October, when we were still talking about, like, what the fuck could happen at the election. As police unions endorse Trump, some worry officers displaying bias could be intimidating at the polls and affect voting. Yeah, and of course I forgot about how some fucking NYPD piggy bastard fucking used the loudspeaker on his squad car to shout Trump 2020 at passerby in Brooklyn, which is like, dude, come on. A uniformed piggy walked into an early voting station in Miami wearing a Trump 2020 face mask, which is like, you can't do that altogether. I would get fucking, like, yelled at if I walked into the place where I was voting covered in fucking paraphernalia for the candidate I worshipped. Whether I'm a piggy or not. In fact, you're probably significantly less likely to catch any flack for doing that if you are a piggy. Because everybody seems to give undue respect to piggies. Because this whole idea of, like, oh, the piggy's here to protect you. The piggy's here to protect you and not just be a source of bacon. You gotta love the piggy. You gotta respect the piggy. The piggy tells you to get on your knees and suck his cock. You fucking do it. At least that's the vibe that I get from a lot of conservative rhetoric nowadays. I don't know about you, but country's biggest piggy labor union used a photo of Philadelphia piggy holding a toddler to peddle the false narrative that the piggies had rescued him from complete lawlessness amid the city's protests, while urging people to vote for President Trump to promote law and order. Which is, oh boy, there we go with cops doing more fascist rhetoric. Yeah, in this society we live in that isn't at least ostensibly supposed to be fascist, and with how Donald Trump and his rhetoric is openly fascist, yes, it is a huge fucking problem when you have these people who are supposed to be enforcers of the law that openly embrace and spew fascist rhetoric. And yes, yeah, boots are pretty yummy, cats. Let me actually, give me 1 second. I mean, I know this is just a shoe, but I use it for racing sims, and, fucking, and I'm pretty sure in Commonwealth countries, the shoes that people wear when they're driving race cars, they call them boots, kind of like rugby cleats are called rugby boots, so here we go. Delicious! Somebody please clip that. Trump, who has been trailing in polls, repeatedly attacked election integrity, called this summer for law enforcement officers to patrol voting sites, which raised the specter of tactics historically used to scare minority voters. Oh boy, it looks like somebody's doing a fascism. Yeah, holy shit. So, especially in light of all this, please, somebody tell me why the actual fuck it should be considered acceptable for piggies to openly spew MAGA sentiment while they're at work. These are supposed to be people that are, like, protecting, like, supposedly supposed to be protecting public safety, although it's literally been stated in Supreme Court rulings that the piggies don't have to give a flying fuck about actually protecting anybody. All the piggies really have to actually give a fuck about is enforcing the law. And the law is law that does not respect the rights of the average person, the worker. Gives gross preference to the capital class. And now we have cops who are showing up. There were cops who showed up to it was a harebrained attempt at a coup d'etat, but contrary to some people that I've heard, to the rhetoric of some people that I have encountered, yes, the Capitol storming was indeed a coup d'etat attempt, despite it being a stupid one and it not being successful. Oh. So I don't know, I'm just having trouble understanding, like, where even is the fucking debate here? Where even is the fucking debate here? Like, how is there any debate over whether... I get the stuff about free speech and whatnot, but, like... There's shit called... Have you ever heard of the fucking Hatch Act, which Kellyanne Conway, noted disseminator of child pornography of her own daughter... Oop, I probably shouldn't say that. That might be libelous. Fucking... She has, yeah, let's there's an entire subsection of Kellyanne Conway's, ethics violations under the Hatch Act, like, which is, like, sleazy shit involving political advocacy from, like, political campaign advocacy from, like, the position of having, like, a position in federal government. Hatch Act of 1939 states federal government employees must not advocate their political beliefs while representing a public office. And there is no jail penalty or anything, but such a violation. A violation of the Hatch Act can get somebody booted out of the office they hold. It's not a laughing matter. But no jail time, and Conway has been accused of breaching the act on multiple occasions. Here's one. February 9th, 2017, when Donald Trump was freshly new in office. During a Fox and Friends appearance, Conway discussed department store Nordstrom's decision to drop products supplied by Ivanka Trump's business. Go buy Ivanka's stuff is what I would tell you, said Conway. She elaborated, it's a wonderful line. I own some of it. I'm going to give a free commercial here. Go buy it today, everybody. You can find it online. Holy fuck, that is a Hatch Act violation and a half. My mom works for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She would have totally been in violation of the fucking Hatch Act if she was using her position as a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service scientist to promote a specific product used to feed fish in aquaculture farms. Fish farms. Within 2 hours, 2 organizations filed formal ethics complaints against Conway for violating federal law, prohibiting use of a federal position for the endorsement of any product, service, or enterprise. Public Citizen asked the Office of Governmental Ethics to investigate, saying that Conway's remarks reflected an ongoing careless regard of the conflicts of interest laws and regulations of some members of the Trump family and Trump administration. Group President Robert Weissman declared, since she said it was an advertisement, that both eliminates any question about whether or outsiders are unfairly reading into what's being said, and 2, makes it clear that it wasn't an inadvertent remark. Yeah, holy fuck, that just shows how fucking stupid Kellyanne Conway is. She literally, said the thing that most definitely makes it a Hatch Act violation. Had she not said, I'm going to do a live commercial here, she probably, the Hatch Act thing probably wouldn't been as much of an issue for her as it was. Or, sadly, those issues were never really actually, brought to any sort of legal fucking fruition or anything. But, because, the Trump administration was just some giant circle jerk of common fucking criminals. But, yeah. What else? Constitutional law professor told New York Times he couldn't think of a clearer example of violating a ban of using your government position as a kind of walking billboard for products or services offered by a private individual. I think she is attempting to quite crudely to enrich Ivanka and therefore the president's family. Chris Liu, the Deputy Secretary of Labor in Obama administration, complained to Jason Chaffetz, chair of U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, that Conway had violated federal ethics laws. She definitely did. Also saying on Twitter that under Obama, if we did what Kellyanne did, we would have been fired. Richard Painter, a chief ethics attorney for George W. Bush, declined to say whether he thought Conway's statements broke the law, but that such actions would not have been tolerated during the Bush administration. You sure about that? The events of the past week demonstrate that there is no intent on the part of the president, his family, and the White House staff to make meaningful distinctions between his official capacity as president and the Trump family business. Yeah, and now didn't he basically try to create some office of the former president, trying to provide some weird official veneer of legitimacy to the concept of him holding any political power? This is all too fucking ridiculous. This is beyond parody. And some more about Walter Schaub, former director of OGE, filed an ethics complaint against Conway, argued that Conway violated Hatch Act when she criticized Doug Jones. March 6, 2018, the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, led by Trump appointee Henry Kerner, issued its final report determining that Conway violated the Hatch Act in 2 television interviews in November, December. That commission was led by a Trump appointee, and it still said that Conway was violating Hatch Act. Yeah, Conway would make frequent television appearances and would constantly comment on political topics. And then she tried to claim she was being silenced by the Hatch Act. And then let me know when the jail sentence starts. There is no fucking jail sentence. You could just get booted out of your office for it. All right, so the reason why I bring up Kellyanne Conway and the Hatch Act and whatnot is if piggies, I think, should be treated in a similar manner to this whole Hatch Act deal that federal employees have to deal with. Because, like, state and local governments, I don't think offer similar protections a lot of the time. And Hatch Act only applies to federal government employees. This idea, when you're a piggy, when you're a fucking cop, you have this enormous amount of power over regular Joe Jerkoff. I am not comfortable with that amount of power. Like, when I see a piggy driving behind me, regardless of what I have or have not been doing wrong with my driving, or what I may or may not have in my car, I instantly feel sketch, because I know that the person behind my car has an enormous amount of legal power over me. The courts will bend over backwards to suck that dude's dick. Or if the person in the cop car does not have a penis, will bend over backwards to lick that person's pussy. And, don't want to use exclusive language here. And that they basically have the power to end my life at whim and most likely get away with it unless it's so fucking egregious and there's evidence proving how egregious it was that, like, my family would basically get lucky and see some fake semblance of justice for it. And, yeah, being in that scenario, and I am a cishet white man. I am a cishet white man. And I still feel, like, weirdly uncomfortable in the presence of pigs because of the enormous amount of fucking power that they pull over the individual. In this type of scenario, it should be extra fucking illegal for that person to then have any, like, room to be able to push some, like, blatantly political bullshit down my throat. Like, it should, like, yes, every piggy who sews a goddamn Q patch to their fucking vest should get the shit can, instantly. And not just the shit can, the fucking blacklist. Sadly, really, the only piggy blacklist is if you are, like, actively serving a prison sentence and cannot, like, physically go get hired as a police officer. And, there needs to be significantly more done about all this shit involving piggies and their disgusting amounts of power over average Joe jerk-off like you and me. But, we can at the very least start with them, you know, not, like, by not allowing them to just casually wear symbols of a fascist cult of personality while they're performing an official duty that isn't supposed to have a political slant to it. Is that too much to fucking ask? Thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, then you might enjoy one of my live broadcasts over at twitch.tv/BeerBashJohnson, and if you would really like to support the channel, go on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/BeerBashJohnson. Both of those links are in the description below this video, and I wish you a wonderful day.
Fuck. I can't speak right now. God damn it. Fuck.